Welcome to the Heart of Herbs Herbal School podcast, where we explore the fascinating world of herbal medicine and natural healing. I'm your host, Demetria Clark, and I'm thrilled to be your guide on this journey of discovery. At Heart of Herbs Herbal School, we're passionate about empowering individuals to harness the power of plants for health and wellness. Through our podcast, we'll dive into topics ranging from herbal materia medicas, clinical herbalism, sharing insights, interviews, tips, and wisdom to inspire and educate our listeners. Hi, welcome. Thank you for listening. So today we're talking about expectorants. Hi, I'm Demetria Clark, the director of Heart of Herbs Herbal School, and you're listening to the Heart of Herbs Herbal School podcast. So today we're talking about expectorants, and I'm trying to add in, along with our interviews, some really valuable and useful herbal information that will help you on your herbal education journey. These are lectures, but they're kind of in a shortened, kind of podcast format. They're not really academic. They're for fun, but they have lots of great information in them. Remember, this is not to be misconstrued as medical advice. I'm not giving you any kind of advice. So if I talk about money, I'm not giving you financial advice. If I talk about herbs, I'm not giving you herbal advice. Use your own common sense and your own education when it comes to using anything that you're going to stick into your body. So, I'm your host, Demetria Clark, and we're going to explore a group of herbs known as expectorants. These natural remedies have been used for centuries to help clear the respiratory system and ease breathing. So, come on, grab a cup of tea, any type, your favorite's fine, or any other drink for that matter, and let's sit back and get started. When you're dealing with a stubborn cough, congested chest, or simply want to support your respiratory health, expectorants can be a valuable addition to your herbal medicine cabinet. But what exactly are expectorants and how do they work? Expectorants are substances that help expel mucus and phlegm from the respiratory tract. They work by thinning the mucus, making it easier to cough up and clear from lungs and airways. This action not only helps to relieve congestion, but promotes better breathing and reduces the risk of secondary infections. How do expectorants work? The primary function of expectorants is to loosen and thin mucus that accumulates in the lungs and airways, and it's achieved through several mechanisms. Number one, they increase the secretion production. So, if you're using expectorants, you're probably going to get a lot more boogers. There's no way around it. If you are working with an expectorant with a child, you're going to have booger bubbles. It's just what's going to happen. So if you have a kid who's not old enough or skilled enough yet to blow their own nose, you're going to need to help them with that. And there's tools for that, but you can also just encourage them to blow or wipe their nose a lot, because the mucus is going to get thinner and more fluid, and it's going to be easier to expel. Bet you never thought that you'd be listening to a podcast where the host says booger bubbles. But anyways, if you've had a little kid, you know what I'm talking about. Reducing mucus viscosity. So they also alter the structure of mucus, breaking it down and making it less sticky. And they enhance ciliary action. They promote the activity of cilia. And cilia is the tiny hair-like structures in our respiratory tract. So you can see them when you look up your nose, right? The nose hair is a good example of cilia, although what we want to do is encourage this action, encourage the ciliary action. Because what it does is it help move, right, mucus in and out of the lungs. It helps, expel and get rid of stuff. It really just helps with the movement. It's kind of like the transportation system of the respiratory tract. So now we're going to take a look at some of the most popular herbal expectorants that you can incorporate into your wellness routine. So listen, if you're not up for making teas yourself, you can look for teas in the grocery store, in the health food store, at your local apothecary. If you have a local like tea shop or herbal apothecary, definitely go and talk to them first, because you can say, hey, I'm looking for a tea that has these kinds of actions or these kind of herbs. And if they don't have something, they can actually whip it up for you. And a lot of people say, well, there isn't a local blah, blah, blah in my town. Sometimes there is, you just don't always know it's there, or they operate out of their home, or it's a smaller business. So definitely keep an eye out for those kinds of businesses. Okay, so some common herbal expectorants are licorice root, and it is an expectorant that helps to thin and expel mucus from the respiratory tract. It's soothing. It soothes irritated mucous membranes and reduces inflammation, and it offers cough relief for dry, unproductive coughs and bronchitis. So you'll often find licorice root in a lot of herbal teas because of what it does in relation to irritated mucous membranes and coughs. And so you can kind of see, okay, I could see why that herb's in a lot of different things. So you would want to avoid prolonged use more than 4 to 6 weeks due to potential side effects such as hypertension and water retention. So if you have high blood pressure, if you have kidney disease, if you have issues and disorders where you really shouldn't be using licorice root, then move on. Don't use it. There's no need to use it. We've got other ones coming down the list. Licorice root can be made into a tea. So basically 1 teaspoon dried licorice root, boil and put it in boiling water, 10 to 15 minutes, drink 3 times a day. If you were making a medicinal decoction, it would be at least 20 minutes that you have it in simmered water. You can also use licorice root tincture, or you can make a syrup. So you could have licorice root decoction with honey to make a soothing cough syrup. Elecampane is the next one, and elecampane is really effective for loosening phlegm, making it easier to cough up. So if you've got like sticky boogers, you have thick kind of boogers, this can be a really good herb to use to really loosening that kind of tougher phlegm up. So it's commonly used for chronic bronchitis and other respiratory conditions. It's an antimicrobial herb, so it contains compounds that help fight respiratory infections. It has a long historical use for coughs and colds and respiratory infections. So some of the precautions is it can cause allergic reactions in individuals sensitive to plants in the Asteraceae family. So use with caution if you have diabetes, as it may affect blood sugar levels. So definitely talk to your care provider before using. If you're on any other kind of medicine, really, use caution and care whenever we're putting anything in our bodies, from drugs to herbs to new things that we've never, experienced before. You can take it as a tea, a tincture, or a decoction. The Heart of Herbs Herbal School Podcast. The next one is thyme. So thyme is a great herb. Thyme has so much love that it just has not gotten yet. Thyme is, we think of thyme in the sense of culinary herbs, and, my students know that I'm always saying, look, people traveled around the world for herbs and spices, right? But what are the herbs and spices they brought with them? So a lot of them brought thyme, oregano, basil, garlic. So those are things that, or they're looking for those in their new area after they immigrate. So there's definitely something to be said for these culinary herbs and thinking about them in a way that acknowledges not just their culinary use, but their deep, deep medicinal powers. So thyme is an expectorant and helps to loosen and expel mucus from the respiratory tract. It's also antimicrobial, so it can be really effective against bacteria, fungi, and viruses. It is commonly used for bronchitis and cough relief, so it's used for respiratory infections, cough, and bronchitis. You can take it as a tea, a tincture. It's also, you can add it to food. You can, there's all different things that you can do with herbs that have really strong culinary uses too. So you can combine it and add it, right? Precautions, generally safe when used in culinary amounts. So some really high dosages can cause digestive upset, and having a few cups of tea a day should not be what is considered high dosage. So don't go crazy. Be, really practical and smart about how much you're taking of everything. So just because something is, culinary doesn't mean that you can just eat 3 or 4 bowls of it, right? You have to be smart with everything that you put in your body. So you would want to avoid thyme if you are allergic to it or other Lamiaceae family of plants. So if you're pregnant or nursing outside of culinary use, you may want to speak to your care provider. Thyme can be used as a tea, tincture, or if you wanted to use the essential oil, you could add the essential oil to for a steam inhalation, and that will help as an expectorant also. The next herb is mullein. So mullein is great. I love it. I love the flowers for ear infections and the leaves for an expectorant and loosen up mucus and, all that fun stuff, right? So you definitely want to keep mullein around for lots of different things, like helping when people are quitting smoking. It's really good at loosening mucus and helping it be expelled from the respiratory tract, which I think is great. Especially if you're quitting smoking, you definitely wouldn't mind getting some of that gunk out of there. It soothes irritated tissues in the respiratory tract, in the respiratory system. It offers particular relief for dry, harsh coughs. You can use it as a tincture. It's generally considered very safe. The fresh leaves sometimes can cause skin irritation for individuals if for some reason they're, getting the fine hairs are coming into contact with your skin a lot. Also, you can strain those fine hairs really well when you make tea so you don't have any potential risk of irritation. So when I say things like this, remember, everything has a side effect. Because something may take just a few seconds extra work to make it part of a formula doesn't mean there's something wrong with it. We don't eat apple seeds. We eat around the core. That's an extra step, right? We peel oranges generally. That's an extra step. There's things that we do to make things safe and easier to consume. And so straining the mullein really well is just another way of doing that. So you can do mullein tea, mullein tincture, or syrup. You combine mullein tea with honey to create a soothing syrup for coughs. The next herb that we're going to talk about as far as an expectorant is eucalyptus. And a eucalyptus helps to clear mucus from the lungs and airways. It's a decongestant. So it relieves nasal congestion and sinus pressure. So that's really nice if you're having sinus issues. You definitely wouldn't, be amiss having some eucalyptus on hand. It is also antimicrobial and effective against a variety of pathogens, including bacteria and viruses. So eucalyptus is one of those that more commonly, even in herbal medicine, it's used in its essential oil format as an expectorant or anything else. So it's definitely one of those this would cross over into the realm of aromatherapy. So you definitely don't want to ingest eucalyptus essential oil. It can be very toxic in large amounts. You don't want to also have it come in contact with eyes or mucous membranes or use with anyone under 2 years old. Typically, you would use it as an essential oil for steam inhalation or topical application. So for steam inhalation, you can add a few drops of essential oil to a bowl of hot water, cover your head with a towel. We've all seen that. Steaming that way, you can use a diffuser, you can use, shower inhalation, having some in a washcloth and a really hot shower. You could put it, at your feet or on another place where the water is hitting. You can dilute essential oil like eucalyptus with a carrier oil. And for eucalyptus, you could apply it to the chest and throat to relieve congestion. Make sure that you are properly diluting. And if you don't know how to do that, make sure you look it up. Each essential oil is different. But basically, I always tell, people, look, start with 1 or 2 drops and like a tablespoon of oil. If it's not strong enough, add another drop. But you can't take the drops away, but you can always add another drop. Same with if you make a homemade chest rub. We have a recipe on the podcast or on the website. I will see if I can get a link to that in the podcast for you. But basically, it's making a all natural vapo type rub that you can use on your chest or your neck or the back of your neck, depending upon where your congestion is. Some people find it really helpful to, do inhalation, sticks, which are basically they look like lip balm tubes and they have a little hole in it and a lid and you breathe in through the hole. You can make those with rock salt. You could also put a little rock salt in a container and add a few drops of essential oil and breathe that in if you're congested. And you could use eucalyptus essential oil, thyme essential oil. So you could use both of those if you wanted, to make it work better for you. And how to use expectorants. So teas and infusions. Many expectorant herbs can be brewed into a soothing tea. Simply steep the dried herb in hot water for about 20 minutes, strain and drink. Or you can make as a decoction, which means you add the herb. Usually hardier pieces of the herb are decocted, like roots and seeds. You would add the herb to simmering water. Make sure that the water is on a very low simmer and you continue to let it simmer for 20 minutes. And then you could let it cool for another 20 minutes before you strain it. Herbal tinctures are a great way to take herbs and herbal expectorants. So herbal tinctures are concentrated liquid extracts and can be taken directly or added to water or tea. You're going to want to follow the dosage instruction on the tincture. Steam inhalation. So we're talking about how you can do that with essential oils. You can also use herbs in your inhalations. It doesn't have to only be essential oils. And then herbal syrups. These can be made by simmering herbs in water, then adding honey to the strained liquid. This can be a tasty and effective way to make expectorants, especially for children over the age of 2. And a lot of adults don't like to taste the herb that they're using. They would prefer it to taste like something like honey. So you can definitely do that. So Safety and precautions. So while herbal expectorants can be beneficial, it's important to use them in every herb safely. Part of the problem in our culture around herbs is we probably have like a gazillion people who use herbs safely and practice herbalism safely. And then we have a few that just go out there and thinking, they're better than everyone else, holier than that, whatever, right? And then they start making these ridiculous claims and they start, making promises about products, and then they get in trouble, right? Because their salve doesn't cure cancer. They get in trouble and then they act like everyone's out to get them. So most responsible herbal practitioners or anyone else who works in herbs and aromatherapy are not going to be asking you to do things that aren't safe, and they're not going to be making promises to you about what you're using. So always consult a professional. A trained herbalist is a great place to start. You can contact herbal schools to find, so we have people who are like, hey, I live in such and such place. I'm looking to hire an herbalist. Do you have, a list of students I can contact or whatever? Or can you pass on my information? And we'll pass on the information, and then they'll get, connected with someone who's looking for a local herbalist. So schools can do that. You can find herbalists, when you search herbalist location on the internet. There's always tons and tons of people that come up. There's local apothecaries, there's health food stores. Definitely you can find a professional. Just look, find out where they went to school. If they finished, that's really important. If someone is saying that they went to school, it's good to know that they finished the school. Not all herbalists are classically or traditionally trained. Some of them are trained, from other herbalists or through history or, reading and self-education. Those are great and viable options too. But, they should be really clear with you how they learned what they learned. Also, as a person, a user, if you are talking to an herbalist or a healthcare provider, let them know any other issues that you're having or any other medication. So when I work with clients, sometimes I have to ask people 3 or 4 times before I find out that they're on kind of a serious, I'm on a statin, or I'm on this, I'm on that. I'm like, well, I've asked you 3 or 4 times now. Are you on anything? And I'm not trying to be, mean here or anything like that. It's just, we forget sometimes. If someone asks me, what do you take every day? I wouldn't necessarily remember always, especially in a new situation and I'm feeling someone out. So definitely be patient with yourself and be patient with the questions. Follow the dosages. So avoid any potential issues by following the dosage. A lot of people are like, herbs are natural, they're safe, I'm going to use as much as I want. And that's not how we want to do it. Sometimes a lot less is a whole lot more. So, if I'm working with someone and they can get their desired effect from 5 drops, why would I want to give them 45? You know what I'm saying? Just hey, this is what can work. Let's be grateful that we can work with a small amount. And some people's bodies just need a little kick in the right direction and their body takes over. And other people need more long-term support and care. So understand that about yourself and understand that, about the work that you're doing. Be aware of any potential allergies to specific herbs. So if someone says that they're allergic to, dandelion, or they're allergic to lavender, or they're allergic to anything, find out what that plant family is, right? So you can say, we're going to keep away from herbs that are from this family, especially if they cause anaphylaxis or something like that. You wouldn't want to give someone who has, severe allergies to something like peppermint, spearmint, or potentially lemon balm. They're all, in the same family. So you definitely want to be aware of things like that. Expectorants are a valuable tool in natural respiratory health. So by incorporating these herbs into your wellness routine, you can also help support your body's ability to clear mucus and maintain clean and healthy airways. So this wraps up today's episode of the Heart of Herbs Herbal School podcast, where we're talking about expectorants. If you also want to hear other ones about herbal actions, go and check out all of our different episodes. We have other ones in there and we have a lot more coming. So thank you so much for listening and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Interested in learning more? Visit heartofherbs.com and enroll using coupon code podcast to save 20%. The content provided in this podcast is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease or medical condition. It's always recommended to consult a qualified healthcare professional before making any changes to your diet, lifestyle, or health regime, especially if you have an existing health condition. Any of the financial information and advice for starting or maintaining an herbal business is just that, information. It's not used to be a guideline on how you should run your business. Contact the appropriate professionals to help you to have a successful business.